So another thing that came up, how did this even come up? When it comes to YouTube channels, how did this come up? How did this conversation even start? Do you remember?
Because I was talking about, Bam Bam having a YouTube channel and then going down, rabbit hole of, I think it was Izzy's brother that also has one, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's
David,
how it started.
He runs Izzy's, and he does a really, really good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that did make us start thinking about all the fighters, past and present, that have YouTube channels. And I thought it would be cool to rank the current UFC fighters, top 5 UFC fighters, YouTube channels. So I know that there's some honorable mentions that we ran up against. What did you see as far as honorable mentions?
So, okay, honorable mentions. So I'm going to start with BYM, Believe You Me, because that's the best one. So then we've got
Believe You Me. Yeah. Now, the only reason that it didn't make it is because half of the podcast is by a former champion. So that I couldn't count that as a
active fighters, solo podcast. Yeah. Another
Even
thing
though,
was you said, it didn't really start off with just Anthony. It was like Bisping, and then Anthony came after. But I feel like they need each other. I don't know. I feel like I'm not really watching something if one or the other isn't there. But I watch everything else.
Yeah. I mean, and I like Harrington a lot. I follow him on Twitter. He says some really funny stuff. But it's just when their dynamic, just those two, with Anthony and
Bisping
and Michael. It's funny. I don't like calling him Michael. I do call him Bisping. But when they're there, it's just their chemistry is undeniable. So
yeah,
they do need each other when it comes to the pod.
Yeah.
What else you got?
So, all right. So we've got Dan Hardy.
Now, for me, Dan Hardy's the best.
Yeah,
I like Dan Hardy's the absolute best.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of, in my head, it's kind of competing with Mighty Mouse, because I'll go watch Dan Hardy and I can just tune in and I'm learning a shit ton. And Mighty Mouse is right behind him. And the only reason he hasn't taken over is because I only just learned about his podcast. So, but
yeah,
they're always giving
that's true. Yeah.
Just really, really good insight, because, I mean, they still love it. They still love it. So.
Yeah. And another thing about Dan Hardy's is he has Veronica Hardy on it when they do picks and things like that. And that has actually served as something that we looked at when we were putting together our podcast. So definitely,
yeah, it's funny.
Props to them for that.
Yeah. And then no knock on their segment together, but for me, it's really War Room. I love his breakdowns in War Room. I can sit through that, and I'm not gonna. It's not something I'll turn on and it's like passively playing in the background. Like I'm turning it on and I'm like really, really listening.
Yeah.
So same thing with Mighty Mouse. Like they've got a bunch of different segments and sometimes they pair up with people, but when they kind of zone in and focus on the fight itself, I really like those. But DC and RC,
which we talked about that one in the last
same
one.
Thing.
I mean, yeah,
still a really good
podcast. They probably get the. You think that they're the biggest? I mean, they got the ESPN thing behind them, so it's advertised on every event. Like,
honestly, it depends on, I guess, how people watch like their UFC stuff. Mine was always through YouTube, so because they're with ESPN and I'm not subscribed to them, it just kind of never came to me. So I had to actively look for it. Are they the biggest? Just in general, right? That's the question. or the most popular. I don't know. I don't think I have a good gauge on that. I would say I actually like Chael. Probably has the biggest. I think
don't
it's the
know.
way he formats his podcast, where it's just like 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and it's like volume, volume, volume.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but
I think that they're the biggest only simply because of like
RC.
the way that their reach is.
Through
Not necessarily
ESPN.
because they're better, but because it's through ESPN. Yeah, because
So
it's
do they
being
like air
advertised
that on
so many
TV?
places.
Like there
Yeah,
is a slot.
they
Okay, well then
do.
in that case, then yeah,
Theirs is on
absolutely.
TV.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then
yeah, theirs is
absolutely.
on television.
But like on
Yeah.
YouTube, would you say it's like Chael?
I
Still
don't
don't
know.
know.
I mean,
On
on YouTube, I mean, as far as like the most popular, I don't know. We'd have to look at the numbers, but I think Sean has a lot. Sean O'Malley has a
Oh
lot.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you did say the most popular. So okay, fair.
Yeah.
And so then obviously Chael is part of honorable mentions, and so is Patty Pimlet. I know he's still an active fighter. Just honorable mention
Yes.
because I just think he has a really good channel. I didn't even like Patty. I didn't really know anything about him, and somehow I got stuck in a rabbit hole watching his videos. And he's super silly. He's crazy, but I think that he caters really well to like separate audiences through different videos. Like, I'm gonna eat 100 things right now in 2 minutes. Right,
Yeah.
whatever. But then he has the video with I want to say it was, can't remember which branch of
Oh,
was
but
it
it was the Marines. It was the
military, the
Marines, I
Marine.
think.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it was the
So
Marines.
that video with the Marines it was just really dope to see him in that space. So he can he's just adaptable. That's for real. That's what it
Yeah.
is. But you
Yeah.
mentioned
And
something about
also
like
the
his interview with
videography there was good. Yeah. I was just
yeah,
saying the
this
videography on that was really good too.
yeah, it was really crisp. But yeah, so those are the honorable mentions. So do you want to give your top 5 active fighters favorite
Yeah.
channels?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will start at 5. At number 5, I have a person that we just talked about, the Sugar Show, Sugar Sean O'Malley, at number 5. Now, one thing that I would say about his podcast is, or not necessarily his podcast, but just his content is it's a variety of different things because he does gaming and he does his thing where he's at the desk with either him and his brother or him and Tim Welsh, his coach. And, they talk about fights and fighters, but they just don't break it down as strategically and as crisply as other channels. But I put him at number 5 because of his reach. He's got a massive reach as far as the amount of people sub to him and people that just overall want to hear what he has to say. So I got him at number 5. Number 4, I got Hamzat Chimaev. And I think that when it comes to the videography and how things look, his is probably the best. It's almost like they got a cinematographer to come and set up these shots and do these shots. They're all dramatic and like they're amazing. I got him in number 4 because of frequency. He doesn't put them out as much, but he probably can't if you're doing all that. So got him in number 4. At number 3, I have, this might surprise you, I have Michael Chandler at number 3. And you're not, so first of all, I like the fact that he set up an actual space for himself in his pool house, built it out, got professional equipment, got the angles right, got the lighting right, and he talks about things that he knows, and he doesn't talk about things that he doesn't, which I can appreciate that. And he does it at a pretty good frequency. Like during the entire Ultimate Fighter series, he was still putting out content. He was still relevant, even though he hasn't fought in over a year. Not his fault. He's still been staying relevant to the people that are interested in what he has to say. So I got him at 3. And number 2, I got Alexander Volkanovski. So you made a remark to me. Was it yesterday? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. You said something about his cooking on the channel. And initially, I actually liked the cooking that he was doing. Now, I'm not, turning on Martha Stewart and watching the cooking show, but he actually did some interesting stuff. But then he transitioned the channel to be more about the fights and what he's doing to prepare or answering questions and then also giving picks. And I like the way that he breaks things down. I like the way that he talks about stuff and brings up stuff. But yeah, I like the way that he does it. It's really cool. Which of course that leaves number 1, Israel Adesanya. I think he has the best channel on YouTube when it comes to UFC fighters, current UFC fighters. And the reason why is a combination of all those things. He does his own fight picks. He does fight picks with David. David does a great job of organizing everything, getting good shots, good lighting. If things need to be a little bit more dramatic, he does that. They do great thumbnails. He does it all. And it's really more so David that I'm applauding than Izzy, because Izzy's the talent. David is the one behind the scenes actually making it go. So I got Israel Adesanya's Freestyle Bender channel at number 1. So what do you have?
Okay, so I think mine's actually going to surprise you. So I'll start at number 5 then. Mine is Jamal Hill, but I think he's there.
Sweet dreams.
Yeah. And I almost, well, I can't do that because he's not active anymore, but it's definitely fighting with, Rampage for sure. But yeah, it's just really new. I don't know. I think he's still trying to figure out what format he wants to do his in, but I'm definitely laughing when I'm watching Jamal. And I think that he's just a fighter that I can easily connect with just from a personality perspective. He's very relatable. So it's going to be hard for other YouTube channels to compete with that. When you connect with someone just from personality, that's tough. But number 4 is also Hamzat, literally for the same exact reasons, but also because it makes me laugh too. He's just a silly dude. So silly. And his romance.
I liked it. I liked when Darren Till was there. His bromance with Darren Till. I liked it when Darren was there.
He brought out someone a little different, in Hamzat. So I liked it too. I also liked having the ability to prove some things, like why is he laying on the bed, during the interview with Ariel Helwani. I'm like, I'm trying to tell you. But number 3, I've got Izzy, actually. Same thing.
Okay.
Like everything you said about David, but also I really like watching Izzy's reactions to the fights because it lets me know I'm not crazy, because I'm probably talking and reacting throughout the whole fight and you're fucking sitting there stoic as shit, not saying anything until you do. And I'm like, huh? What'd you say? So, but it's really, really cool to see their genuine reactions. And, at least for now, Izzy doesn't hold back. He says what he says. So it's good shit. I really like it. Also, the different segments they have where you're learning more about Izzy. that's really cool because I think we're more or less like around the same age as him. So it's really nice just to kind of see what someone is doing to elevate themselves, or to work through maybe some mental issues, or just how they deal with, really, because he still has his own constraints too, right? Like fame, working
Yeah.
with the UFC, blah, blah, blah. It's really interesting to see how he navigates those spaces. So I enjoy that. Number 2, I've got Volk. Same exact reason as you. When he did the cooking thing, it was cool. It was fun to see. But once he made the pivot and focused more on, UFC or just MMA in general, I did prefer it because he breaks things down really well, much like Dan in Mighty Mouse, but he does it so fast and with less words, and more or less says the same thing. But
Yeah.
from, I guess I just kind of got stuck there. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but also
Oh,
always
you talking about when it
laughing.
comes to Vulcan? His
Yeah,
yeah,
also
yeah,
always laughing. I think that's going to be high. If I'm like laughing and cracking up, like, yeah, it's probably going to be on my top 5 for sure. And my number
yeah.
1 is, I'm almost ashamed, is Henry Cejudo, because he's the only active fighter
Triple
that
C.
gives
Okay.
like similar breakdowns. And he does not sugarcoat his opinions. I've seen him do it one time, ironically, with Aljamain Sterling. So he didn't want to say what he thought would happen because he didn't want it to impact, anyone's game plan. So I was like, okay, Henry, you're usually real childish, but he's taking the high road today. But he has some really good breakdowns. And just like Chandler, he set
He
up a
does.
space for his podcast. So they're very similar in that they do things, they want to do them. They want to do them the right way.
They
That's it.
wouldn't
And
do it. Yeah, they
it's
want to
gotta
do
be
it right.
clean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
he breaks it down. He's got his little, Apple Pencil whiteboard situation in there. He's, like he's presenting some kind of project. So,
Yeah.
and I like when he comes back
Triple
to
C.
say whether he was wrong or, if he was right. And I like the format. Sometimes he's kind of, has some interesting things to say. But other than that, really high IQ. I'm always learning.
I had him. I had him on my list. I had him on
Mm-hmm.
there. And remember, I changed something at the end, and I had to have Sean on the list somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I put him at 5. I initially had Henry at 4, but then I was like, but Hamza's cinematography though.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But
He's
he's
actually
actually
almost
putting out stuff a little bit more.
yeah. But that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is that it's not a lot of it, but I think that we have so much from all these other fighters that it's still okay. But I think other than the top 5, one that I know it'll probably make its way there is Max Holloway. Yeah, I think he'll make his way into my top 5. His is
Yeah,
pretty
I think
cool.
so.
Wonder Boy, and then Robert Whitaker too.
Yeah. Yeah. Rob is such a smart dude. I think that they mix a lot of the gaming with the fighting, and a lot of people aren't here for that. So that can throw people
That's
off a little
true.
bit. But
Yeah, but I think
when
they
he
did a
talks
good job
about
at separating
fighting,
them
it's
now.
that's good. Yeah. I think that maybe was the only drawback, but he's such an intelligent dude. Even from his interviews, he's done numerous interviews on things like Submission Radio, on Weighing In, which is also on our podcast to watch list. Weighing In with Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson. But yeah, Rob just gives really good interviews. He's really well spoken and super thoughtful. So,
Super.
matter of fact, he has a show down there with Volkanovski that's on like their version of Fox Sports 1. So he's on TV.
What? Can we
Yeah.
see this somewhere? Okay, I'm just gonna make a note of that because I definitely want to check that out. That's funny.
I don't know if you remember me saying something about like just their dynamic, just him and Volk. Like they actually have pretty good chemistry, and it's kind of interesting for one of Volk's good friends is Izzy, and so he's just like, I'm friends with both of y'all, so
yeah,
it's interesting.
I gotta check that out.